Hey guys, Dustin Wint.
Hey, this is Scott Snyder.
This is Paul Dini.
And you're listening to Bat Force Radio.
And you're listening to Bat Force Radio.
You're listening to Bat Force Radio.
This is Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman, and you're listening to Bat Force Radio, so stay tuned.
Welcome back to Bat Force Radio. I'm Robin Cross. So every month for the last 5 months, I have beaten my Instagram followers over the head about each issue of a book called Behold, Behemoth. It was a new title from Boom Studios. The first issue kind of blew me away, and it has continued to be one of the books that I looked forward to the most each month. A little while ago, we were joined by the author of that book, Tate Brombal. And this week sees the release of the scheduled final issue of the series, and a perfect time for us to revisit the story. This time we do so with the series co-creator and illustrator. Aside from Behold Behemoth, you may know him from the Sandman universe series, The Dreaming Waking Hours, Euthanauts, Clockwork Angels, or as a GLAAD Award winner. Tonight you will know him as Nick Robles. Thank you for being here, Nick.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I know you've got a lot of things that you're working on. You just wrapped up, well, as far as we know, with Behold Behemoth, and you're doing covers on Christopher Chaos and lots of other things. So yeah, appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Yeah, I'm happy to. I'm working on a Chaos cover right now, actually.
Nice. Yeah, I'm really waiting for that book coming into the physical print. I read the first issue online, and yeah, that's so good.
I'm so excited for that.
Me too. But before we begin this Yellowjackets podcast, I just wanted to ask some questions about you. So I like to start off with an origin story. So what was the first thing that you remember that made you want to start drawing or painting, or just inspired you to become artistic on whatever level?
So it's always been a thing in my life as far back as I can remember. I know that's a cliche anymore, but that's just how it happens. And I'm from a family of artists. My grandmother, she helped me really kind of just dig into things. And I always remember asking her how she did things, perspective and painting and everything. And my mom and my aunt are artistic. So it's just, I grew up with it, and they were very nurturing to my desire to become an artist. But I didn't think of it as a career path until, more teenage years. But it's always been a part of my life. I always remember drawing something or trying to learn how to paint a picture or draw this and that. And it's just something I've never let go, and I don't plan to.
Good for us. It's handy that you grew up in a family of artists, because so many people, particularly when it comes to comics, but I guess art in general, can very easily be met with a lot of resistance. We had Ram V on here a while back, and he's obviously a massively successful author and artist himself. But with the his father being the traditional guy that he was insistent that he have a good education to fall back on. So like he had gone through schooling to be like I think it was a chemical engineer.
Yeah, I think so.
So like having something to fall back on, definitely awesome. But to think that people like yourselves who do find so much success in the industry might have had resistance in the beginning is kind of unfortunate.
Yeah, my dad was the same way, except he wanted me to have that backup plan. That's a common thing you hear.
Yeah.
But I grew up with my mom and that side of the family, so that side that encouraging side that kind of pushed me to, yeah, continue doing this, Nick. Yeah, you can do this. There was a lot more push of that in my life.
Yeah,
So I
because
rode the waves of that.
and that has to be a huge benefit, because if you're going to pursue anything, I feel like going whole hog into it is only going to increase your chances of getting there.
Oh, absolutely. And it just became something that was the only path that I saw me being able to take. I've mentioned it on past podcasts and interviews I've done, but I've had like some rough stretches of anxiety and panic attacks, and just that whole kind of mindset where you kind of feel like you're closed off from everything and you're too affected by your own brain to follow some other paths. But art has always been there for me. So it's the path that I always saw in front of me, and the only one that used to feel like I could take, and I'm glad I did. I love it, and I wouldn't change a thing. But it's something that I remember that I appreciate about it. If that sounds that sounds a little weird, but I appreciate that I was encouraged to follow that dream and that passion, and it became a road to a career. And sometimes I say that comics kind of gave me a life, because I didn't have such a strong presence with my art until I, oddly enough, backed into doing comics. I got asked out of nowhere to audition for one. And it was one of those times where I was like, I've never done one. I don't know if I could, but let's give it a try. And yeah, that led to all this, and a life I'm very thankful for.
Yeah, so you mentioned that it wasn't until your teenage years that you saw it as something that could be a career path. What was it that made you finally think that, oh, this is something that I could do? And what was the first time that you did realize that, be able to realize your ability to make a living in art on any form?
I think it was, I've always been a fan, but I remember way back then I was a big fan of Todd Lockwood, and he was when I found him, he was doing the Dungeons and Dragons 3.5 edition art, and everything that kind of resonated around that fantasy illustration, and paintings that would just fall in that line of work. And that was my goal. That's what I thought I was wanting to do. That's what I was going to do. I was going to be a fantasy artist. I was going to illustrate books, and I was going to work for Wizards of the Coast, or do some kind of interior work for some kind of fantasy product. And I remember emailing him, and he sent me a tutorial of how he worked on a disc, a CD-ROM, and that was just the coolest thing to have him even acknowledge me. So that was my goal back then. I started drawing and painting traditionally back then when I was a teenager, and then I kind of crept into the digital art world when it was booming, and that's kind of where I really took off, because I do not miss oil painting so much. It was very messy, and it took a lot of space, but I used to have that dream of being a big time oil painter of some sort.
Do you still do some of that? I know you do your comics work digitally.
Yeah, I've just switched to pixels 100% for a long time now. I still get the itch once in a while, but Photoshop and Clip Studio always call me back, because that's just my comfort zone now.
Cool. So I led off with talking about Behold Behemoth. How did you come to know Tate to begin with, and begin the road to what would become Behold Behemoth?
Sorry, I blanked out for a second, but I did a variant cover for Barbalian, which you should all read if you have not, because that is an amazing book.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I was doing, I got asked to do a variant cover. He emailed me out of the blue. and I was happy to be free and jump on that. And we became fast friends and ended up talking quite a bit. And now it's pretty much every day. So that was 2 years ago, I think now. And I was still doing the dreaming when we were chatting, and he would always kind of launch some ideas at me, and I was always like, that sounds amazing. I'd love to draw that for you. Let's see what's going on when I finish up the dreaming. And I finished up the dreaming, and I was needing a break before I jumped into anything else. So he knew that, but then he was working on the Black Hammer Colonel Weird story, the big collected edition that just came out.
Yeah.
And yeah, we decided to kind of collaborate on a small 10-page story to see how we work together. And it was it was perfect. I had never really worked with someone who I spoke with so regularly. I usually stick to email transactions and just chatter through that, and that's how I worked. But I had never really kind of like texted with a writer or got to be super friendly with one. So that story just was beautiful and wonderful to work on. And then I heard him kind of talk about this before, and the time for it to start evolving into an actual product came up, and I was free. And I think he was kind of dangling it in front of me, and I just leapt at it.
Now you mentioned the dreaming, as I did earlier as well. So going
Mhm.
from not knowing if you could work in the comic medium to working on something in the Sandman universe, what was that like? And where did that one
it
even come from?
it was wild. I so this year, closer to the end of the year, it will be my 10th year doing comics professionally. So I've been doing it a while now. But before that, I never thought I could do comics. It seemed wildly out of my realm. I thought those people are way too talented and way too fast at drawing. And then I told you before, I got asked to audition. That was for Clockwork Angels in 2013, 14. So yeah, that just kind of snowballed and rolled along. And then I was at a convention, Emerald City, one year, and Chris Conroy came up to my table and asked me about working on something. And I think he asked me about a Sandman thing, and I felt like I probably looked over my shoulder to make sure he had the right table or something. Like, me? Are you sure?
Am I sitting by
You work
someone
for
else's
DC?
sign?
I know I have a banner with my name on it, but are you sure?
Yeah, that's pretty wild though. And because like Sandman is one of those things that if
Yeah.
if someone asks, if someone who had never read comics said, like, tell me 5 or 10 comics that I should read
Hmm.
to really know what comics are, Sandman is b- definitely in that, like in the top 5 of what
Yeah,
you have to give
absolutely.
anyone.
Yeah, I never really read a ton of comics growing up, but Sandman was one that I experienced because it's just one of those ones that it extends out from the usual circle of comics. People on like the just on the fringes of the comic world will grab it or follow Neil Gaiman's work or something like that.
Yeah.
So to be asked and to have actually worked and contributed to that world, that just blows my mind still.
Yeah, it's one of those things, and Neil in general, maybe this is because of the breadth of work that he has done. He is one of those creators that his material transcends what people are usually into. I heard Neil
Hmm.
do an interview a while back with Mark Maron on his podcast, the comedian, writer, actor. And Mark was talking about how like he was never a comic guy, but when he was
Hmm.
a young adult, 2 things that he did read were Sandman and by extension Constantine. So yeah, it's
Hmm.
just hearing that's just another example of how it just transcends. It's not just comic people that read Sandman. So to get invited into, I guess, that club of working in Neil's world is pretty cool. Not everybody
Yeah.
gets there.
it just kind of, I'm still giddy at the thought of him actually seeing my work. Just, oh, Neil's seen this. That's amazing.
Did you ever get any interactions with him or anything as a result of it?
No.
Damn, not
Just
yet anyway.
some retweets, I think.
Hey,
Which was awesome.
Yeah, that's good enough. And not only were you working in the universe, but you got to help introduce a new character with a ruin.
Yeah, we got a few new ones.
Yeah, a few new ones for sure. I should say, but and most notably, the ruin is sort of I guess the central character as far as being, one of the nightmares that Dream had created. And this, for anyone that's watching the YouTube version, I have one of the variant cover for issue 1 on the screen now, and that's one book that I'm always searching for. It's always so expensive, so I'm just always watching for an affordable one to be able to grab. But yeah, I love that character design cover. Yeah.
Oh man, just let me know. I think I might have a copy around here.
Oh, it's worth too much, man. But yeah, awesome to be able to not only delve into that world, but add to it and leave your mark.
Yeah, that's just an incredible opportunity, and I'm so glad that Chris came up to my table and just thought to ask me.
Now we just wait and see if they decide to throw Ruin into the Sandman Netflix series.
So I might have been looking for any nods or anything.
Yeah, yeah. Well, of course
anything.
you would have to.
I guess there's a little bit of a road to get to our book, but just a tiny one, just 100 or 115 more pages.
Who knows though? Because they have to jump around and touch on things, and they could definitely just show him there in the dreaming or something. I think they did a lot of clever things with the series, like for people that didn't even read the comics, they might not know who Lyta Hall is. We meet her in the show, and they definitely don't beat you over the head with who she is. They tell you her name, and that's it.
Yeah.
They don't tell you that she is the daughter of Wonder Woman and Steve Trevor. But what they did really cool with the casting is, I don't remember the name of the actress, but they cast a woman who looks suspiciously similar to Gal Gadot. And that was just a cool little thing that if you knew, is, hey, she looks like Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
So who knows? They could do something cool and just throw Ruin in there.
Yeah, I'd love that. I was totally looking for any nightmare scenes or anything.
Yeah.
Like the new one that they kind of introduced. They were like blue and purple. They're kind of aesthetic. I kept sitting on the edge of my seat, and I was like, this isn't happening, but that would be really cool if he showed up somewhere in the background or something.
Yeah, we got to get him in there.
Yeah, even my mom watched it, and she was like, Nick, when are they going to do something with yours? I don't know. Let me call Mom.
Come on, put him in there. Make Nick's mom's day.
Sorry, Neil. My mom's asking Neil. I need a favor.
You got to do it for the moms. So I want to go back to Behold Behemoth now. There's a lot of depth to that story and to the characters in it. Where does that story come from? Like, where did the two of you come up with not only the genesis for this, but how did you where did all that world building come from?
Oh wow, okay. A lot of the initial stuff came from Tate. He built quite a bit before I came on and had like the strong idea and the outline of what he wanted to do. And I think when I came on, I think it just kind of naturally flowed together. Like we based it in Louisiana, where I'm born and where I live. So we kind of had that Southern Gothic start to the whole thing. And it just kind of came together, little pieces of both of us. Like he made Kavita was a cop, and that was his choice. And in the original draft of the story, and I was like, yeah, we're working through some stuff. My dad was a cop, and it's stuff like that, just like little things, little coincidences, just kind of built this thing up to become a thing that poured from the both of us and just took on a life of its own.
I think it was definitely the right call having a story like this based in your hometown rather than Tate's. You know, I can make fun because I live just a few hours away, but you know,
Oh yeah,
having these characters walking around with their A's and a boots wouldn't have the same kind of gravitas as what we get with Grayson and Ren.
yeah, yeah. He was writing the dialogues at one point, and he was like, "Nick, I need you to help me uh, uh, chicken or country fry, chicken fry or something." I can't remember the word he used. Just bring the South to the comic, and I did my best I could.
Well, you nailed it. It doesn't feel like it's in Canada, so you know, you
Well,
did your
that's
job.
good. I'm glad it has a Louisiana Southern feel and uh, a biblical mythos horror elemental feel to it too.
Yeah. Because there are a lot of layers going on to it. Like not only the you know this the central conflict, you know, that is this potentially world-ending sort of event that has been, I guess you could say, they've tried to put this off for all this time. You know, stop this
Hmm.
this thing from happening. But the first thing I remember reading the first issue, and I think it's in the first issue. There's that moment between Grayson and Ren when Grayson returns to Ren's house and she's
Hmm.
hiding under the sink, and they have that moment between them, and that
Yep.
was the moment that really grabbed me. And okay, this is going to be something.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what we wanted. That was just that was the first like brick of their relationship and just the gravity of this book. I guess we were naming them the protagonist officially right there. Like, you are going to follow these two. This is their moment.
And that was sort of the first moment that you get a bit of at least maybe there were signs before, and I'm just slow, admittedly. Uh, but that was the first moment where I started to think, oh, this house is destroyed, and like we've kind of been thinking that, at least I was thinking that it looked like maybe Grayson had this monster in him, but then I think this
Hmm.
was Ren. And and then we eventually find out that yep, that's what it was.
Oh yeah,
Now,
yeah. That's such a great first issue too. I'm really proud of it.
oh yeah, you should be. That for me, and I'm sure anyone else that has been reading it already. And if you haven't, like, go check out issue 1 right now. Stop listening to this before we spoil everything, and go pick up issue 1 right
Yeah.
now. And I guarantee that first issue is going to grab you, especially when it gets to that part. Now, drawing the two different worlds, you had very different tones. So, well, almost three, right? Because we get the flashbacks that it leads off with, I think, of
Hmm.
Gray when he was a kid with his brother. And then we have the present with Gray, where he's, you know, this adult now, but very much affected by the events of his youth. And then we
Hmm.
have the other version of the world that you jump back and forth to. Uh, how do you negotiate like living in these different worlds? You know, being able to jump back and forth, and you know, altering up the art style, because they're very stark contrasts
Yeah.
visually to each, you know, and then they have to be, you know, that sort of visual cue of what time you're in. But how do you balance all of these different things? Just because for us, we're just looking at the pages and we're seeing it done, but you have to create this. This is all coming out of your head.
Hmm. Yeah. So that's partially something when we were first starting. I told Tate that I love to kind of jump around with styles and stuff. And you don't usually get to do that with comics. With comics, you usually are doing you have a formula and you stick with that to just kind of lay the tracks down and get the book done. You have a schedule and you can't mess around too much or you'll throw off your schedule. So with me, I love to jump around. I love to experiment and stuff in my work. It may come from me thinking I was going to be an illustrator or a painter when I first started, and then I had to learn how to do line art and stuff when I got into comics. So with this, I told Tate that I wanted to jump around, and he was on board. So a lot of this different kind of style work with Behemoth was me wanting to kind of bring all of my voices to it. And that's exactly what I did. I just kind of took like the nightmare scenario in the first issue that turns into, spoiler alert if you haven't read any of it, it turns into the actual future. And I kind of worked it where that painting is very rough at first, and you can't tell what it is at first until it's evolves as the first issue goes on, and it becomes a line art style. And with the flashbacks, I used more of a lack of inks. I penciled it, and then I kind of colored it and kind of painted it a little bit, just to give it that soft tone of memories and just childhood. So that was the idea for both of those. And the modern, or not modern, the see, this is what happens when you have a multiple time period book. The current setting, I guess you'd call it, is just kind of my traditional comic work. That's my go-to style for when I do comics.
Yeah.
And I knew that would be the one I leaned onto most. So I made sure that I didn't get too crazy with the future one. I couldn't keep up the book if I tried to paint the whole future setting, because it's going to become a 50-50 balance. And I needed to be able to get the book out as fast as I could, and I didn't want to slow anybody down. So that was the choice there.
I liked.
I think it worked out pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely, and particularly in issue 5, I like where that jump back and forth between the two, how much the two different times were mirroring each other. We had the what was going on with Gray and Ren in both, where it again, spoiler alert, it culminates with Gray saving Ren in both timelines. As you switch back and forth, you're seeing it's that sort of mirroring in both times.
Yeah, I love that comes across. It's obvious in parts, but in other parts it was kind of, even when I was doing layouts, Tate kind of had that little click, like, oh, you did that, okay, that's cool. And then he would like build on it, like, let's do this works good, let's continue this idea.
Yeah,
so
it's
I'm
one
really
of those
happy that came across.
Yeah, it definitely did. It's one of those moments in comics that I really like, that when something is visually shown so well that you almost feel like you're seeing it cinematically. You can imagine seeing it in a movie, like it was just like a
Thank
movie
you.
is jumping back and forth between these two times. Yeah, definitely nailed it. And coming from someone who didn't think you'd do comics, what was that moment? Because for people that maybe haven't ever thought of it before, the differences between just traditional art and then comic art is there's this sequential aspect to drawing comics. You're doing your panel storytelling, and that's a different thing than if you're painting a single piece. And that's where a lot of you'll read a lot of comics that the story is great, the art looks wonderful, but the panel storytelling, the panel to panel storytelling just isn't there. And you can find yourself confused, like, well, this looks great and the story's really interesting, but I'm not really sure what's going on because the panels are kind of confusing. At what point did you figure out that, oh, I really can do this? I got this sequential thing figured out.
It was with Clockwork Angels, honestly. I jumped into that deep end and I figured out how it all worked, and it just kind of flowed out of me naturally, which sounds silly, but I remember just working with my editors, and I wasn't like perfect or anything. I was eager to learn, and I just kind of ran with their advice and their feedback, and I enjoyed it. I enjoyed kind of expanding on a single illustration to show different moments and stuff. So learning to do comics with Clockwork Angels was just that unlocked part of me as an artist, and I never let go. But I did change up how I work, because with Clockwork Angels, going back to the painting mentioned on Behold Behemoth, I painted the whole of Clockwork Angels, not traditionally, but digitally.
Hmm.
But it's all painted. It's not no line art was done because I didn't know how to ink really. I painted before all this. So when I finished up Clockwork Angels, which it was a rough road, but I knew I wanted to continue doing comics, but I wanted to learn how to ink and do it that way. So I think the following year, after I wrapped up Clockwork Angels, I did a lot of painting for covers. I did a lot of work for Boom, and I kind of taught myself how to draw and ink so I could do comics that way, because doing them how I did before, it was not going to work out. It was too slow. That was a big problem I had with Clockwork Angels. I was too slow because I was trying to paint every little thing.
Yeah, trying to put more detail in, and that's a different thing too, right? When you're just doing
Oh, absolutely.
a single piece, you can kind of go full detail, but when you're doing the sequential thing and you've got the deadlines and everything, yeah, so when you're doing sequential, how many, like Behold Behemoth, for example, how many pages a day would you say that you would typically bang out? And was it different? Was there a difference when you're doing the different times?
So this is the thing with me. I am very bad at working in order. A, B, C, D. I do not do that. I kind of jump around to what I'm feeling, and editors probably hate me for that. But yeah, I can't really tell you how fast I can go. I can tell you, like, on a day-to-day basis. I'm trying to work on that a little bit, but I think I have done some issues of Behold Behemoth in like 6 weeks. I did the whole thing. That's drawing, inking, and coloring, and maybe doing some edits here and there for feedback.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I know I am capable of nowadays.
And
It's, I'm sorry.
I would say for anyone, whether the editors like it or not, if that's the way that you feel you work best, then I think any of us reading would say, yeah, do what works for you.
Thank you. I've always held on to, I don't know who said it, but someone a few years back said, people will remember a good book, not that it was late. And that's been my little guiding light when I hit those slow times.
That's very true. But I don't think any of the issues of Behold were ever late, were they? I don't remember anything coming out
I hope
on
not.
schedule.
I was going as fast as I could because I haven't colored myself in a long time, and I knew I wanted to try and handle it all this time. I want to try and bring something new to the next book I worked on.
And as far as doing it the way that feels right for you and not the way that your editors might prefer, I think it was the first time we spoke with Sean Murphy when he was doing the first volume of Batman White Knight. He revealed that he didn't give his editors, I think it was issue 1 or issue 2, until he was working on like issue 7 or something. So that if they wanted to tell him, no, you can't do this or you can't do that, then they were going to have to pay him to redo all the issues again.
Oh, man.
So that was just making sure that he got to do the story the way he knew it should be
He
done.
wanted to do.
And I'm very much in favor of that. If whatever way feels like the better way for you to work, then I think all the readers are going to be in favor of that.
I hope so. And we had a good head start on this book, and I think that shows a lot with the first issue, because that's that gave me the time and the grace period to really uh, handle those art styles that are all in that first issue, because there's 3 of them in there. And yeah, I wanted to make sure I just kicked this amazing story off right. So I wanted to do Tate proud, because he just kind of he's my buddy, he's my friend now. And I just want to do good work for him.
Yeah, and you really did nail all 3 of the art styles right from issue 1. I remember when Boom emailed out the initial promo pages when they announced the book. I remember being most grabbed by those pages that showed young Gray with his brother. Like those are the ones that really went, oh, this is interesting. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I
and
love those
finding,
pages.
yeah, it's done so well, and yeah, something about it just captures exactly what the reader is supposed to be feeling. But yeah, to be doing the first issue of the book, that was really where you had to, I'm sure, learn how long this was going to take you, throughout, doing each issue. That's sort of where you're mapping out, like, okay, this, doing these pages in this style, this is about how long it's going to take.
Yeah, partially that, and just I knew I wanted to like take some time and really concept these characters and figure out who they are, and make sure I'm going to fall in love with them. Tate's going to fall in love with them. Our editors love them, and most importantly, the audience is going to just really like these characters and how they look and how they act. And I wanted to just make sure everything was right with this book.
Yeah,
I mean, you
definitely.
do that with every book,
Yeah, but yeah,
but this one,
sometimes there's a book that feels like there's something special to it, and to me, I felt like this was one of those.
that makes me so happy. It just coming off the Dreaming, I knew I wanted to do something original next, and Tate knew that too, and we just poured everything we had into this book. That's another reason why I wanted to color it and do everything by myself. I needed to put everything I could into the book. Not that I
Yeah,
don't, not that I don't do that before, but doing an original book is different.
yeah,
And it's been
and
a while
knowing
since.
exactly what you want it to be. If you were, if you were letting someone else color it, it might not come out the way that you were going for.
Yeah, for sure, that happens, and uh, I've been blessed with some great colorists. I love everyone I've worked with, but um, everyone has their own different voice and colors, and
Yeah.
mine's different from everyone else. So I want to try and bring that back for once, just see how it works.
Now,
And
oh, sorry, go ahead.
painting bring yeah, sorry, I was going to say painting is another angle of that too, because um, I could paint in black and white, but if I paint in color, that's something only I can do from the pencil stage. Like I knew I wanted it to look like this, and I could like work with a colorist to achieve that, but there's just that personal touch that I wanted to actually have in my hand on this book. So yeah.
Now, forgive me if I'm misquoting or misremembering here, but when we spoke with Tate, I think he was saying something like, before you had agreed to working on Behold Behemoth with him, that you were maybe considering moving out of comics. Was that accurate?
That's accurate.
Yeah. So we did
um,
almost not get this work from you.
yeah, kind of. I think I'm not sure. I think I'm might be wanting to try something else, but
Okay.
um, the idea of working with a friend and someone I spoke to every day was really a game changer for me.
Yeah.
Not that I didn't like anybody else I worked with. I love everyone in comics. Everyone's just kind of been amazing to work with, but it's different with Tate and just someone you talk to on the regular.
Yeah, and he's a super nice guy too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And before I get into the next question that I want to try to corner you with, this comes into how issue 5 sort of wraps up. But before I get into that, if anyone listening hasn't read the book yet, how would you explain the story to them?
Oh, the whole Behemoth has always been kind of so big that it's hard to distill down into a few words.
Yeah.
But it's about a social
Why do you
worker.
think I asked you to do it instead of doing it myself?
No, I want to hear how you pitch it.
Yeah, you go ahead and then I'll give you mine.
Okay. So it's about a social worker named Grayson and a girl whose case he worked on named Rin. And it's them pretty much in the grand scope of the book that it's them facing the beginning of the end of the world. And there is an entity that's, how to phrase this without spoiling everything, there is the Behemoth that is it's a shadow forthcoming notion of the end of the world, and it is intertwined with both Grayson and Rin, and it kind of sees them and their pasts and futures, and it unfolds into this psychological thriller and post-apocalyptic survival story with biblical myths sprinkled out here and there, and we follow them through that. And that's the best way I can put it off the cuff.
Man, that's exactly what I was going to say. I think you were reading off my screen.
Oh, I don't think so. It is a very large story, and that was one of the big temptations of it. I wanted to do something big and just beautiful and just go nuts with the mythology. And I love like post-apocalyptic stories. Everyone loves them. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many of them. But yeah, I wanted to do that kind of story, and I'd never really done this type of protagonist combo, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just Behold Behemoth and Tate kind of pulled me from that. Maybe I should go try something else for a while. So that should tell you something.
And where that brings me to now is that I wanted to touch on where issue 5 ends. And I have spoken with Tate after I read issue 5, and I had 3 questions that I just posed to him to say that from my point of view, we need more of the story happening. So immediately upon finishing reading issue 5, my first questions were, does the Behemoth stop being a baby? Does Gray get to ask about his brother? Because he said that he wanted to ask. He had some questions about his brother. And do they find any fucking frozen yogurt?
Okay, so what did Tate say?
He just laughed. I wasn't actually asking. Like, I was more using these questions as my backup for that. We do need to see more of this, and I know Tate said that you guys both love the characters, and maybe you would like to do more, but obviously we don't know anything yet. But where do you stand? I assume similarly that you would love to work more with these characters in this world.
Oh, absolutely. There is plenty of demon torn up roads to travel with these 2 characters. There's plenty more baby Behemoth interactions to be had, and there's frozen yogurt to be found. We've got to find that.
Yeah, they mentioned it too many times. I think it got mentioned in both timelines, right?
I'm remembering twice offhand.
Yeah, I feel like it was in both timelines that there was a reference to it. So we have to get that happy ending where they get the Froger.
Oh yeah. That's the next arc. It's going to be Behold Behemoth, the frozen yogurt.
Yeah, that's all the story is 5 issues of finding the yogurt.
Yeah, all the talk of family and everything, that's just like 3 pages. The rest of the book is finding that yogurt.
There we go. Spoilers. We got the the first
sorry,
news
Tate. I
on
know that
Well, I told you. I told him we're going to geo-block him from listening to this one. So.
Yeah, he's gonna hate me just laying out the plans for the frozen yogurt plot.
But now you know you guys are stuck and you got to do it.
Yeah, that's it. I'm gonna have to email him right when we're done. Just tell him, like, I kind of spilled on the podcast. We got to do it now. I don't know what we're doing or how fast we're doing it, but we got to do it.
I got to start drawing tomorrow. Well, I guess you've got a couple days, you know. So we probably, yeah, I think by the time, given what we talk about, so I think by the time anyone is hearing this, it'll be April 26th, the day issue 5 is in stores. That we'll be putting this episode out. So yeah, very cool to see this issue getting out in the world.
Yeah, excited, nervous. I want to see what people think.
Well, I've not seen, is one of few books that I have not seen negative opinions of. So yeah, if you know, for whatever that's worth.
Yeah, that's means everything. You love to see a book like do well, and like I said, we poured everything into this one. So just getting such a positive feedback with it, and just a great first issue debut with everything. That was wonderful.
And to be a part, you know, to have a story that came out so well, coming from a publisher that's doing so well right now. You know, like Boom is so huge with Something's Killing the Children still going, the Keanu Reeves comic Berserker, the spin-off from Something's Killing the Children, House of Slaughter.
Yeah.
What was it?
Yeah.
2021 that they had like 2 of the top 3 selling comics of the year is just insane.
Yeah, and it's a weird homecoming for me. It's kind of odd working like this because my first book was Boom, was the one that asked me to audition, and now I'm back here on my 10th year of being in comics doing another Boom book.
Yeah, awesome. So clearly somewhere that you enjoy working then.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Now, veering away from comics a little bit before we run out of time, as I mentioned at the beginning, Yellowjackets. You watch Yellowjackets too.
I do. I didn't watch the first season when it was airing.
Neither did I. I binged and caught up.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you just do it like recently?
Yeah. I think there were 2 episodes, 1 or 2 episodes out of season 2 when I finished season 1. So yeah, I'm really
recently.
Yeah. But yeah, that show, man, like there's so much going on. Like you've got the Lost in the Woods aspect, you know, with you know all the cannibalism that entails, but then you've got cults and the supernatural and you know a little bit of body horror.
It's got everything, and I love it so much. I binged the first season a few months back. I got Paramount sponsor shout out for something else, and then I saw that, and I remember people talking about it, and I devoured it in like a night.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm glad I didn't have to wait too long for the second season. But I think, yeah, I actually watched the whole first season again right before the second one started.
Yeah,
just
I often
because I needed to experience all of that.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said for getting back into the world before you jump into the new season, right?
Yeah, for sure. And there's so many shows out right now, and I feel like I'm behind on so many.
Yeah,
but Yellowjackets is one I was waiting for.
And and not just the story, but like the cast is surprisingly, they keep throwing these people at you.
Yeah, that's a great cast.
I'm just surprised to see, you know, and like, was it maybe towards the end of season 1, or was it maybe it was in season 2? I can't even remember now because I watched them all so close together. But you know, like now Elijah Wood shows up. And...
Yeah, Yeah, he showed up in season 2, and I haven't watched the most recent one, like I told you, and then you spoiled everything for me. Not really, but
Yeah. Oh, that was the best and worst episode ever.
yeah, I might just skip over that one. But
Now,
yeah,
what do you think? Do you have any theories or anything of what's going on? Because like we've had like the thing that I think interests me the most is with the pregnancy in the woods, because they've given us some cues, like so we know from conversations, where they're in the present time, that
hmm
their misadventure in the woods was what, 20 or 20, I think 25 years ago,
yeah,
and
I think so.
that daughter is not 25.
Uh-huh.
So
I
that's
know.
not the kid she was pregnant with. So there's another kid, or was another kid. So I don't know what's going on.
I
It's very
know. I'm
interesting.
waiting for that shoe to drop.
Yeah.
I'm terrified and so curious. And I hate it, but I love it, and I need to know.
As long as the I think the one thing I don't want to see happen is that a baby came and went the way of Jackie.
Yeah,
I don't know if they'll do that.
that's a dark turn. I don't know
Yeah,
about
it
that.
is, but they've had some dark turns already.
Yeah, and it has such dark turns, and then it has these moments of um, comedy that peak out.
Yeah,
It's just
and
this weird balance, and I just kind of love that kind of balance.
yeah, the light and the dark complementing each other, and sort of palate cleansing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like season 2, it's I feel like I don't know, like the setup time is quicker, that they've been kind of rolling along quicker with things.
Yeah,
Like not in a bad way, it's just a different tempo to the plot.
yeah, and maybe it's that they're chasing now some different things, now that they've moved past some of the things that we had to see and had to know. Yeah, maybe they can move at a different speed, but and definitely not in a bad way. And it's refreshing when a show can be changing its own pace as it goes along.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's going to, or at least I hope it's going to surprise us more in the ending. Just, um, I remember reading an article or seeing just a quick headline or something. They pitched it for 5 seasons.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it might be around for a while, but that may not be. That may have been just a glance at a headline, but um, the internet, I read things.
Yeah, me
but
too.
but yeah, the tempo's different, and I'm wondering how it's going to end, because that first season had such a good slow burn and culmination of everything to the end of the finale, and this one just kind of went quicker. And I am more of a fan of like the slow burn stuff, but like you, I love when a show can kind of change its tempo and surprise you in new ways that you aren't expecting.
Yeah, for sure. And if it is going 5 seasons, I hope that it's because that's the way it was written. I hope it will be 5 seasons
Yeah,
because the story takes 5 seasons, not because like, oh, this is doing really well, let's add a couple seasons
yeah,
to it. Terrible.
yeah. No one wants something to be stretched out like that, but we get that so often.
Yeah, and that's sort of the best part of the way TV is happening now. These things that are particularly like shows that are just they don't have a live to air kind of thing. They just come out when they come out, because then they can
hmm
be, each episode can be as long as it needs to be, and as the season will be as many episodes as it needs to be, not
Yeah,
okay, let's fit this into the cookie cutter of this many episodes at this length each.
yeah. I mean, it that comes with comics too. Like
Yeah.
it's it, it's got 22 pages per issue, but if you can kind of change it up and just like do what's best for the story, that's what I want. And yeah, that's what
And
I want to see more of.
yeah, and that's what's great about Boom. Boom's a great example of not like Behold Behemoth, 5 issues. That's not the standard 6 issue trade paperback that DC and Marvel put out. But then they've got there's the book that Lieber Mayo is doing with Mattson Tomlin, Vicious Circle. That's a 3-issue book, and it's coming out like, an issue every 6 months or something, because that's how long it takes for Lee
Okay.
to paint each of those issues. And
Yeah,
that's
for sure.
that's great. Like I don't care if it's months in between issues, if that's what it takes to make that product.
Yeah, and the trade waiters, they'll get their book when it's done.
Exactly.
And like I said, people will remember a great book, and not that it was late or that it
Yeah.
took longer than the usual formula. So yeah, I'm all for just giving the creative team like the time they need. I mean, I say that as a creative creative on that end, but
Yeah,
yeah, I want more time.
it behooves you to have that opinion. But yeah, I think it's the best for everybody too.
Yeah, if any editors are listening or publishers, give your creatives all the time they need.
But what else are you watching? Anything else that's great? You playing anything?
Oh man, I have not played anything lately. I've been playing like Overwatch a little bit just for something really quick and fun, but
Hmm.
I've been wanting to play God of War Ragnarok, and it's been
Okay.
out for a while, so I need to get
Yeah.
into that at some point. Um, I don't think I'm watching anything new right now. I'm probably going to go watch the most recent episode of Yellowjackets when we're done here.
Nice. Yeah. Hence my terrible spoilers earlier. I
David
gotta.
Hasselhoff.
Oh man, but it's sort of a great idea though, right? Like David Hasselhoff shows up as his character from Baywatch, but in Kit from Knight Rider. Crossover of the
Yeah,
century.
yeah, just that bridge between the woods and the present.
Why not? But I gotta ask, because this is my favorite thing in the world. Did you watch Last of Us?
Oh, absolutely. That was
Good.
a inspiration to Behemoth. Tate knew I was a huge Last of Us fan.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, that's those are my 2 easily favorite games of all time.
Oh, absolutely. Just break my heart. I love
Yeah, yeah,
it.
and I play it over and over again. We did about 8 years ago. So like I was one of those people that was waiting for Last of Us from the time that it was only a title, and I think there was an image.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I was
I came much
waiting for it
later.
to come out. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of
Yeah,
a lot of people did. The internet was different back then, we didn't have so much news of things, so it was harder to catch on to something before it was actually a thing.
yeah, for sure. I watched a Let's Play of the first game
Oh, cool.
because yeah, it's such a cinematic game anyway, so it worked just
Yeah.
very easily. And then oh man, I think the second game came out before I actually thought like, I'd like to play the first game just to have that firsthand experience. And I hadn't watched the expanded or the downloadable content story. So
Oh,
I got
Left
to play
Behind,
through the
yeah.
first one. The first one that was like remastered, I think.
Yeah.
I think they recently remastered it again or
Well,
something.
not only not remastered, they completely rebuilt it for the PS5, like with all new
Oh,
assets. Like they
okay.
used the assets that they created for part 2, so all
Right,
the
okay.
looks and textures of everything, and rebuilt the first game on the PS5, and it looks incredible.
Yeah, they remastered it once before, right?
Yeah, it came out originally on the PS3, then it was remastered for the 4.
Oh,
And yeah, that
wow.
that that
Okay.
4 version looks that's probably what you were talking about. And yeah, that one looks great
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, I played through all of it and then just jumped right into uh, the sequel and, just kind of played and cried for days.
Yeah, it's a rough
Just blown
ride.
away.
Yeah.
It is, but it's like the most beautiful game and story, just heart wrenching. And I'm a sucker for like the bittersweet stories and the character work, and uh,
Yeah, and
I
and
love it. I'm glad you mentioned it.
yeah. And what they do to you in the second game, introducing you to someone from a standpoint of hating them, but then make you
Yeah,
like them.
exactly. That's oh, why are you guys so good and so evil?
Purely evil. About maybe it was probably about 8 years ago, I think. We did a podcast with Paul Dini and Misty Lee. Misty is his wife. So
Okay.
in addition to being a stage magician and several other things that are just really cool, she is also a voice actor. And she
Okay.
created the clicker sound
What?
for the
That's
first game.
awesome.
Yeah. You can see old videos on YouTube of her in the studio creating this sound, and then she taught it to a male voice actor to do the male clicker voices.
Oh, cool.
And then they sort of designed what the final look of the clickers were on this sound that she had created. So
That's awesome.
so we had her on, and I got to nerd out on her about the game.
Yeah.
Like, at the time I had probably played through the game about 5-6 times already, so I went a bit crazy on her, and then she tried to teach us how to do the clicker sound.
I was gonna ask.
Yeah, she
That's
did.
amazing.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And the coolest thing is that not only they brought her back for the second game, you see her in the credits there too, but she also worked on the show, on the HBO show.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I saw a making of video that shows her and the gentleman actor. I'm sorry, I don't know his name, but showed them in the studio with Craig Mazin recording sounds. Yeah, so it's awesome
Oh,
that they
that's
kept those
awesome.
people that were there in the beginning are still there.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I
Now that
love
it's
that.
all Hollywood.
Mm-hmm. And they said they're gonna break up the second game kind of into seasons, I think.
Yeah. So I I always listen to the podcast after each episode. There was an official HBO podcast with Troy Baker, Joel from the games,
Yeah.
Neil Druckmann, and Craig Mazin. So like the minute the show ended on HBO, they would throw up on Spotify the podcast episode covering that show episode. And I think it was in the first one that Craig revealed that, well, at that point, a season 2 hadn't been announced. So at that point,
Hmm.
he was saying, if we get to go farther than season 1, we will take 2 seasons to tell the second game. And then
Oh
since
yeah.
then, he has amended that to say at least 2 seasons, which is great to hear, because that second game is just way too long for
Yeah,
a
for sure.
9-episode season.
Yeah, I mean, I would have loved if they did that with the first one, but I understand why they couldn't. Just, but the way they handled it was beautiful.
Yeah, and the things that they stuck to the source material were
Hmm.
great, and where they changed it, that Bill and Frank episode, that was a very
Oh,
different version of the world for Bill and Frank, but geez, could that have been any
that
better?
no, that was. It's got to be like one of my favorite hours of television ever.
Yeah,
I was not. Nobody was expecting that, and just I don't know if they know how special that episode is,
they
or at least I
better.
hope they do.
Yeah, and like hopefully the award shows will show them,
Yeah,
if
I
they
was
aren't
screaming
already
for
now.
awards just the minute it finished. I was just blown away.
I saw this meme about that episode that said, Joel needs a truck. Let's write the single greatest hour of drama television ever created. It was a very dramatic road to get Joel and Ellie a truck.
Yeah, for sure.
But
Let's stick that song in the truck too, just to cap it off at the end.
yeah, in case you weren't already a mess.
Yeah,
Now we'll
the
put a
the,
nail in
the
the coffin.
window pan shot too. Let's just stick that in there too.
And the window that window shot was genius because one, you're showing them drive away through the window. You've got
Hmm.
the painting of Bill on the wall that Frank had done. The song is playing, but then also that window shot is the game menu.
Yep.
The curtain blowing and everything. Man, these guys.
Let's just fully destroy them by episode 2. Yeah, I remember when that one aired, and then Druckmann was on Twitter saying that wasn't even the real sad episode. Oh,
uh,
okay, we're doing this.
man, imagine when they get to the
Oh,
the things in season 2. The people that got on board with the show, aren't ready for the second
yeah,
game.
no, I don't know if
Or
I'm ready for the second game to see it in like a cinematic TV HBO view. Like I'm gonna, oh
Yeah, like it's one thing to see the events happen with animated characters. It's mocap and everything, but they're
yeah,
sort of animated on top of that. Then seeing real people
yeah,
embodying
it's
that.
yeah, and they I mean, it's HBO, and they've already got brilliant actors, and they're going to go 100% with what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to spoil a TV show or video game more than my own comic book. Like, yeah, read Behold Behemoth. This happens, but I don't want to spoil this game because it's gonna tear your heart out and stomp on it.
Well, so does Behold Behemoth.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, like I said, when we first started, Tate knew I was like a huge Last of Us fan, and so that was like a ton of the show's music is on my Behold Behemoth playlist.
Oh,
That's
nice.
another thing about the show; they kept the music from the game, and I was like,
Yeah, yeah.
oh,
There was no way they couldn't. Gustavo's
oh,
soundtrack
absolutely,
is just so synonymous with the game.
yeah. I mean, I finished playing the first two games, and it was like around getting too close to Christmas, and someone asked me what I wanted, and I was like, I kind of want a guitar and want to learn guitar.
Yeah, and well, I
So I
feel like
got a
I want to
guitar
learn
after.
some Pearl Jam.
Yeah, I got a feeling for some reason. So yeah, that happened.
Nice. So, what have you picked up playing so far?
Oh no, I haven't even played as much as I want. I need to start like putting out time to stop drawing and actually pick it up.
Yeah, I get that. And you need your Joel to teach you how to play.
I do. my, my Joel has been a book and YouTube.
Not nearly as dashing.
No.
Did you clock? I mentioned Gustavo and how synonymous his game and like his music is with the games, and like he's such a part of the game culture. Did you notice, or I don't know if you knew what he looked like, but in the second game, right near the beginning, when you're walking through Jackson, and the
Mhm.
dog comes up to you, Buckley from the first game, and you see there's the man sitting in a chair playing a banjo, and that is Gustavo that they put in the game.
Oh, that's amazing. I didn't know that. No, I haven't. I want to play
Yeah.
the second game again. It's been a while. And yeah, I'm kind of got a little bit of free time at the moment. So maybe I'll get emotionally invested in the video game again that I played before and,
Yeah.
know everything that happens.
Why the hell? But it's one of those things like, sometimes I'll watch like, Breaking Bad over again. And I think anything that is that level of quality, you can watch it again. And each time you do, you pick up different things that you didn't before.
Yeah, for sure. And just as a storyteller, you pick up those things, and that's part of how you learn to tell better stories. I guess that's I'm a big video game nerd, so that's a big library for me,
Yeah,
especially with like The Last of Us that is so cinematic. I mean, comics can be cinematic in their moments, but they have their own visual language that you can play with and stuff. But bringing inspiration from outside sources makes your comics interesting.
for sure. And somehow that comparison of games and comics is reminding me of a game that to me felt in a lot of ways like a comic. Did you ever play What Remains of Edith Finch?
I'm sorry, what was that?
What Remains of Edith Finch?
No, I haven't. It's kind of ringing a bell though.
Yeah, really interesting game. It's about a movie length. Like you'll play through it in one sitting,
Hmm.
but it feels sort of like reading a comic because you're walking through a story. There are no enemies to fight. Nothing like that at all. You're walking through a story, and it's really dramatic and well told. And yeah, it'll destroy you too.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Maybe
So
I'll play
yeah,
that
yeah,
before I return to Last of Us.
yeah. It's a nice appetite wetter for for the misery.
So it's called What Remains of Edith Finch.
Yeah. PlayStation and
cool.
PC, but yeah, obviously you're a PlayStation guy, having played Last of Us.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
I'll writing that down.
And then as far as picking up on things, picking up new things each time you go back to something, I'm sure now that having read issue 5, I'll go back and read through all 5 issues of Behold Behemoth in succession again, and there are probably some things that I'll pick up on and say, "You son of a bitch! I didn't even notice that." That's the great thing about going back through a story when you have the hindsight of how things end. That you yourselves as creators, as you and Tate were creating this, you knew what you were putting in and why. But for those of us reading it, we can go back after and read things like, that's why that was there.
Yeah, you get that whole full circle effect, and I love seeing that when you go back into a story.
Yeah. So I'm going to have to do that. And anyone listening, if you have already read Behold Behemoth, do the same. Read, start it from the beginning. Read them all together. And if you haven't, and if you're still listening, I don't know why you're still listening if you haven't read it, but go pick it up and read it, because we've really barely scratched the surface of what goes through this story. But sheesh. We have been at it for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So back to the topic at hand. So issue 5, Behold Behemoth, in stores today, as you will be able to hear this, April 26th. If you have not picked it up already, go out and get it. And it's one of my absolute recommended readings of the year, on end of last year and beginning of this year.
Thank you.
You can make no mistake with picking this one up. But anything that you would like to say before I let you get back to life?
Just echoing you, and pick up Behold Behemoth 5 this coming comic book day, or today, since you'll be listening to it today, hopefully. And let us know what you think. Check out Christopher Chaos as well.
Yeah, that's so good. That's Tate Brombal, also Isaac Goodhart. And man, it's you can read the first issue of that online, and it's coming into print soon. So good, and Nick does great covers for it.
Yeah, I've been doing covers and character concepts for that.
Yeah, that's another one that's just a really original book, and definitely something you want to read. And we will leave it there. Behold Behemoth, number 5, April 26th. This was Nick Robles. Thank you for being here, Nick.
Oh, thank you for having me. I had fun.
Me too. And this was Bat Force Radio. We will see you next time.